So what we're really good at in our world is finding enemies, finding the enemy, fighting the enemy. And whether that's a literal enemy, Taliban, Al Qaeda, ISIS, whatever, or it's some sort of figurative enemy, right? Like you are fighting against the evils of society, or you've got to fight the clock to save a person, or you've got to, fight the fire, for example, right? Any enemy, any adversary that you need to overcome as part of your job as an operational Australian, whether it be military, first responder, emergency services, there's always an enemy to fight, right? And they like that. I say they, the organization, because you need to have a focus. You need to have a mission. Unfortunately, when you leave a job like that, or you become at odds with that organization because you're going through a crisis, that mentality, you take it with you. You take it with you, and then you start to look for an enemy in other places in your life. So anybody can tell you that when you're on operations and you're not literally fighting the enemy, and things might be quiet for a little bit, then what people tend to do is they tend to turn inward, right? Whether it's on each other or themselves or the organization or some other petty grievance that they've got becomes the new enemy. And then you've got this new thing to complain about, to fight against, to resist, right? And sometimes it's even your own organization. You're like, these fucking people make me do this, and this is stupid, and that's broken, and whatever. And, I got to fight the system. Sometimes that's a good mentality, because if you've got focus and you've got an enemy and an adversary, you've got something to focus your angst and your aggression on, and you can focus all your energy toward that thing, and therefore you can achieve your mission. But sometimes there is no more enemy. You don't need to fight someone. You don't need to have an adversary. You don't need to have something that you need to be in conflict with. Right? It doesn't mean that you aren't allowed to strive for things and have a goal and have a mission, but you don't need an enemy all the time. Because when there is no literal enemy, when the thing that you used to fight and strive against that was your adversary is now gone, well, you're good at finding the enemy and looking for one and fighting one, so you're going to look for and find and fight a new one. And unfortunately, what we are really good at doing is what we think is ownership is actually self-blame or blaming someone. And if you can take ownership by blaming, you can then punish. And unfortunately, what we're really good at doing is blaming and punishing ourselves and even our families purely by proximity. And I'll talk about this at another time, but don't look for an enemy because there doesn't have to be one. And it doesn't also mean that you just have to sit there like a Buddhist monk and be all peaceful and that you just never fight and you hate conflict. You're allowed to have that same insane drive and the focus to direct towards something, but don't make it an enemy. Because if it's an enemy, if the mentality is that it's an adversary that has to be conquered, then unfortunately you might do things that are damaging in pursuit of fighting that enemy. And unfortunately as well, the enemy might be yourself or somebody or something you care about, and then you may damage that thing. So become okay with not having an enemy. Just have something to focus your energy on. They might be very similar, but I think the mentality of an enemy versus something to focus your energy on can be a big distinction and an important one to make.